Hi, everybody. This is Drew Ann Kuntz. I'm the Conference Benefit Officer in Albuquerque for the New Mexico Annual Conference, and I'm hoping to walk with you through filling out your compensation form for 2018. First thing I want to show you is where to go on the conference, the New Mexico Conference webpage, and if you go over here to Forms and you go to Charge Conference Forms, this is what will pop up. So for our thing today, we're going to be looking at the compensation form instructions, and 2018 resolutions and policies. So let's go ahead and let me open this one up. Sometimes this takes a minute for it to show up on your screen. So, okay, so here is the instruction page. And it has really detailed instructions. I'm going to be going through all of this, but if you still have questions, you can refer back to this and see that. So that's the instruction page. So let's go back here, resolutions and policies. Let me bring this over from the other screen, and so this is the resolution and policies. So if the pastor is going to be having a housing exclusion, it's very important that this gets filled out and voted on at the time of your charge conference. You can't go back after the fact and fill this out and have it voted on. So this is real important that this is done at the time of the charge conference. Okay, so let's go to the compensation form. It will open for me. Okay, so here's the 2018 compensation form. And as you can see, there's several pages to it, and I will walk you through what the pages are doing. So, okay, so let's start at the top, and we're going to do a couple scenarios. So this scenario is that the pastor is in a parsonage. So we're going to, what is the church of the charge? So, okay, let's say we're at the 8th church of the UMC. And let's figure out a pastor. Oh, we're going to make Kathy the pastor. The effective date for this is going to be 1/1/18, and this is for the entire year for the pastor. Okay, so he or she are full time, and this part is really important. If you would please, whoever's filling this out, please put in your name and your phone number, because it would really be helpful in case we have questions at the conference office that we could call the person that filled this out. Okay, so this particular, Kathy is in a parsonage. Okay, and so we're going to click yes, and then we're going to leave the housing allowance. She won't have a housing allowance, so that's 0 because there is a parsonage. Okay, let's say her salary is $50,000. Okay. And if the pastor is receiving equitable compensation, please put that portion of that, whatever that amount is, in here. So say they're getting $1,000. You'll notice that this changes. Everything is adding up here, okay? So we'll take this back out of here. So now, does the pastor want to take a cash allowance, or does the pastor want to do an accountable reimbursement account? So these are two different things. If you go down to the worksheets, so here are the worksheets. I'm going to make this bigger. So here are the two worksheets, cash allowances. This is cash provided up front to the pastor monthly. It doesn't have to be vouchered, but this is to use for these different expenses. I want you to see what will happen if the pastor chooses this. It is also, remember, it is taxable income. So you're going to give the pastor wants $500 for travel, and you notice it says total cash allowances. It adds these up. So we go back up here, and it has populated this field. What has changed now is the total or gross cash payment for the pastor. So this is included as income. It also, this amount is what is used plus housing to calculate the CPP, which is the disability and life insurance for the pastor, and this is the pension for the pastor. And that will make a difference on this amount. So you'll see that so he has a parsonage right now with that added in there. The CPP amount is $1893.75 for the year. Let's go down here and take this out. And we go back up here. So now the gross salary, the pastor salary, is now $1875. The pension and the disability is they use this number 4 to calculate that plus housing. So this is important if they do this, that pension will change and they will be paying that. So let's say they want to do an accountable reimbursement, so they have $500 for that. We're going to go back up here. You'll notice it populated that. This didn't change. The pension calculation did not change. This is the accountable reimbursement. Line 4, it's really important to understand this. Line 4 is what is used for minimum salary for pastors, for full elders, provisional elders, full-time local pastors. This is what is used for minimum salary. You cannot add the accountable reimbursement and use line 6 as minimum salary. This is just a total basis for appointment that the DSs can use when they're looking at churches and appointments. This has nothing to do with minimum salary. So we have $500 in the accountable reimbursements. Okay, so you have a pastor and this pastor has a spouse, or a dependent that's under the age of 18, just the two of them. So we're going to pick that's where offered. This is their health insurance, and this is what the church will pay. So I noticed I put an X in there for pastor plus 1, and this is the annual amount the church will be responsible for. Let's say I put a check in that box as well. It doesn't like it, so you need to pick one. Okay. Again, you look down here, it's already populated. We've already said that this pastor has a parsonage. So this is the yearly amount for the CPP, yearly amount for the CRSP, which is the pension. This is disability and life insurance. Okay, so now we have UMLO or UM Life options. Some folks think this is an optional life insurance for the pastor. It is not. This is not optional. That's just the title of it. This is an additional life insurance for the pastor and the spouse and his spouse, he or she spouse. Sorry. Okay, to figure out what that amount is, I've added this chart here so you don't have to go to the instructions. Okay, so say the pastor's age on January 1, even if his birthday or her birthday is December 31st, this is how old she is on January 1st. So we take that and we look over here, the annual amount for the pastor is that amount. Okay, so the spouse said the spouse is 43. This is the annual amount for the spouse. 43, the annual amount is 5.97. And you can see that it totaled. Okay, so this added it up for you. And if we go back up here to line 10, you'll see that it has added that up. So hopefully this will make it easier for people, and it's all concise and just in these forms here. Line 11, and you'll notice that this is the total compensation package. Thought this was important that everyone understand what the church's obligation is to have a full elder or a full-time local pastor, and this is the church's obligation for all of the health and benefits and salary for the pastor. So this is what the church will be responsible for the year. Line 12 is the housing exclusion. This is if the pastor chooses to take a housing exclusion, that amount will be put in there. This has nothing to do with what the church will pay or not pay. This is for the pastor and for his taxes or her taxes. So this is actually, because of the IRS regulations, this has to be voted on at the charge conference, and you must include that document that I showed you before of the resolution and have that filled out, and it must be voted on at your charge conference. You can't go back and do that later. It has to be done at that time. The decision on how much the pastor wants to take is there. If the pastor has questions about the housing exclusion and how that would work, they really need to contact their person that does their taxes and get advice from them. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so let's go up here and change this to no, they don't have a parsonage, but the church is going to give the pastor a housing allowance of, say, $8,000. Okay, again, notice this doesn't change, but what changes is the pension and disability life insurance. So, but it also takes into account and adds this box over here. So it already populates it because we said no up here. Okay, so it already knew to put that number over here. These numbers and the health insurance don't change, but you'll notice now the total compensation package has changed. So it's 82 here. So let's just look at this again and put this back as yes. And now it's 75. You can see there is a huge difference on how this is calculated, because these two things are calculated by taking the salary, which is line 4, plus the housing. So the housing allowance was $8,000, and that's how this is calculated. Seems to be no. Okay. Okay. So let's go on down there. I had shown you the resolutions. I'm going to bring this back up. This takes a second to load, so hopefully this is on your screen now. So again, you can fill this out easily. 8th United Methodist Church, the pastor's salary. What was it? Pastor's salary in line 4 is $50,000, and the pastor. Oh no, that's not that. That's the housing exclusion. I'm sorry. So the amount that the pastor has chosen for the housing exclusion must go there. Okay. This needs to be voted on and signed by these people, and it needs to be in the file. A church should keep a copy, and the pastor needs to keep a copy in their files for their taxes. So we'll close that. Okay. This section here on page 2, this is really, really important. I need that people understand that all 3 of these people need to sign this, and then the district superintendent will sign it after the charge conference. Please make sure these are signed by all 3. I've asked the district superintendents to pass this back to you if these are all 3 are not signed. Because it's really important that the SPRC chair and the finance chair understand what the pastor's compensation is. So it's really, like I said, it's just really important, and hopefully this will help with your budgeting. Also, by signing this, the SPRC and the finance chair, you'll see this little star down here that you're acknowledging that you have read the arrearage policy of the New Mexico Annual Conference. This can be found in the conference journal. It can also be found on the instructions, specifically on page 9, paragraph 6. This is very important that they understand that this is, if they sign this, they understand if they do not pay, if the church doesn't pay the pastor's health insurance or they don't pay the pastor's salary, there are consequences. So I want to point that out to you, that please make sure that everyone reads that. All righty, let's scroll down here. This is just a payroll deduction worksheet. And I want you to understand this one, it doesn't have to be included with your conference. And some of your church conferences are before November 1, so you won't have this information. After the pastor chooses which health plan they want, and if they want to have dental or an upgraded vision, this will change, and this is where they put this amount in. Again, this is a worksheet for the bookkeeper to do payroll deductions. And if you go down here, down to the last page, you'll see this is the church's obligation, and if whatever plan the pastor chooses, and it has the monthly premiums here, this is the monthly amount. The church is responsible for only $615 for a single person. If the pastor chooses one of these other ones, they'll be responsible for the difference, and that's what's in the parentheses. Also, if they choose one of the dentals or the upgraded vision, that's the monthly premium there as well. So you will need to multiply that by 12 to put this up here. Then we talk about the UMP contribution, which is the United Methodist Personal Investment Plan. This is the pastor's personal contribution to his pension. These two boxes are just 1% of the plan compensation, and the pastor must do at least 1% of the plan compensation in order for them to receive the entire 12% of the CRC pension and benefits. So they will lose out on 1% coming from that if they don't do at least 1%. They must participate on their own at least 1%. This is $500, $580 for the year if they don't have a parsonage, and this is $625 as an example. These are examples. The pastor can choose to put, $1,200 in for the year, and that's the pastor's choice. Okay. Also, I need to mention that if the pastor is doing, you can also just do a percentage, but this is again helpful for the bookkeeper to know what the yearly amount is. But it's real important that you'll understand that you will receive a bill directly from Westpath Benefit Investments. So it's important that you know that you need to watch for that. This is also a payroll deduction. All of these are payroll deductions, but this is paid directly to Westpath from your office. Somebody asked me, does the pastor have to do 1% or contribute to the UMPIP? They do not have to. But if they don't, then they will not receive their full pension benefits that are calculated on that first sheet. They will not receive all that. Again, so that is that. Okay, so let's go back up here. So say the pastor is half-time or quarter-time. You need to understand, as you see here, the pastor is three-quarter time, at least three-quarter time. They are eligible for both CPP and the CRSP. If they're half-time, they're not eligible for the CPP. However, they are eligible for the life insurance, and if this is the case, then long-term disability will be included in the UM Life options. So they do get some long-term disability, and they do get some life insurance if they're half-time or less. If they are half-time or less, they are not eligible for health insurance, so that would stay at 0. And if they're half-time or less, they are eligible for the CRSP. You'll notice if you're filling this out and you have a pastor or the pastor you are half-time or quarter-time that this automatically populates. If you'll contact me directly, I will send you a form that will allow you to keep these at 0 or put in the correct amounts. So just contact me directly, or I'll try to be proactive and notice who might be doing that, and I will send it directly to you. Okay, so let me see if I have forgotten anything. Okay, so let's say the church, the pastor has 2 churches, a 2-point charge. So this is, again, just a worksheet to be used by the church and the pastor. So you can see church 1, it populated it on its own, what the package will be. And then you would need to put in what church 2 will pay for the salary. So if you're splitting it or there's a percentage, you could put in so that would be the total of the 2 churches. Again, this is just a worksheet for both of you and the pastor to know what the yearly package would look like. Okay, so church 2, so we have the 7th church, would fill this in on their own. So say they want to do 525. So this would be the total accountable reimbursements between the 2 churches. The life insurance, again, you'll need to contact me if you have a 2-point charge or if I know that it's going to happen, because we'll have to adjust this if the churches are splitting it percentage-wise. Say this church is doing 75% of the health insurance, this is doing 25%. So that I can let you put that amount in here correctly, I'll need to send you a different form that will allow you to do that. Again, so this is just like helps you know. So that's what this is. This is a worksheet. It's very helpful. Each church must do their own. Each church would do what their portion, what they are paying for the church, paying for the pastor. Okay, so if the pastor, church 1 is paying, $40,000, the total would be 50. Then they need to put 40 in there. Don't put the total 60 on your own individual church. I need to know what the church's obligation is individually. Again, this is just a worksheet so that you can see the combination of the 2 churches, what the total will be. Same way with this would be if it's divided. I'll set this up so that you can put in so that you can manually put in whatever percentage you want from that back here up on line 10 and manually put these in. Okay. Alrighty. So that's the information on the 2-point charge. I think that's everything. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me at any time. I'll be glad to walk you through it. I'm hoping this will be helpful to everybody. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. And everyone have a blessed day. Thank you.